skeletal muscle physiology, particularly its microscopic and macroscopic structure, along with its properties related to excitation and contraction. We are going to have a look at the physiological anatomy of the skeletal muscles as well as the microscopic and macroscopic structures of the skeletal muscles. Before we go on particularly to the discussion of skeletal muscles, let's have a look at the histological appearance of all three types of muscles: skeletal muscles, smooth muscles, and cardiac muscles. Just focus on this image and try to appreciate which one of these images is showing the skeletal, smooth, and cardiac muscles. Let's have a look one by one. The skeletal muscle over here in this image, you can appreciate the cells are multinucleated, and you can see the striations over here which are uniform throughout the skeletal muscle fiber. And this is the macroscopic image. If you have a look at the cardiac muscle under microscope, you can appreciate these intercalated discs over here and the branching of the muscle cells as well, which are the conspicuous features for the identification of cardiac muscles. While looking at the smooth muscles, you can appreciate the spindle-shaped nature of the shape of the smooth muscles. Also, there are no striations in the smooth muscles, and these are uninucleated. So, the most conspicuous features of skeletal muscles include these are multinucleated, these are not branched, and these are striated. And the shape is cylinder shaped rather than the spindle shaped as seen in the smooth muscles. And this is the detailed comparison of the histological appearance of skeletal, cardiac, and the smooth muscles. Skeletal muscles have striations, multinucleated. They lack any anatomical or functional connections between the individual muscle fibers, which is seen in all the cardiac muscles and one type of the smooth muscles as well. Skeletal muscles are under voluntary control. Let's have a look at the physiological anatomy of the skeletal muscle. Starting from over here, we are taking an example of the biceps muscle. This is a one complete muscle joined by the tendons on both ends to different bones. This skeletal muscle is further composed of multiple muscle fasciculi. As you can appreciate in this image, there are multiple muscle fasciculi inside one skeletal muscle, and each muscle fasciculus is further composed of multiple of muscle fibers. Inside the muscle fasciculus, you can appreciate multiple muscle fibers, and this is one muscle fiber which is equivalent to muscle cell, which is multinucleated, as you can appreciate in this image. A skeletal muscle composed of multiple muscle fasciculi, and muscle fasciculus is a bundle of multiple muscle fibers, whereas one muscle fiber is equal to one muscle cell which has multinucleated cells, and this is the muscle fiber which is striated, and striated because of presence of myofibrils inside in particular arrangement, and these myofibrils are arranged in the form of a sarcomere, and the sarcomere is further having multiple myofilaments, particularly the actin filament and the myosin filament. So, moving from an organ level, that is a muscle, it is composed of multiple muscle fasciculi, which is the tissue, and each muscle fasciculus is composed of multiple muscle fibers, which is the cell of the muscle, and each muscle fiber is having striations and multiple nuclei, and striations is because of the arrangement of the myofibrils, and these myofibrils are having actin and the myosin filaments, which are the cytoskeleton elements composed of actin protein and the myosin proteins, which are the protein subunits. So this is a molecular level protein subunit organized into cytoskeletal elements, which organized into specialized intracellular structure called myofibrils. These myofibrils are arranged inside a muscle cell called muscle fiber. Multiple muscle fibers join to form muscle fasciculus, and multiple muscle fasciculi are joined into one whole skeletal muscle at the organ level. So this is the general organization from the macroscopic level to the molecular level of the skeletal muscles. Each skeletal muscle fiber, which is equivalent to one muscle cell, is surrounded by the muscle cell membrane, of course, and in case of skeletal muscle, we call it sarcolemma. Myofibrils present inside the sarcomere are of two types, thick filaments and thin filaments. The thick filaments are also called as myosin filaments, and thin filaments are also known as actin filaments. As is evident by the name, thick filaments have a larger diameter and larger size as compared to the thin filaments. The thick filaments are having 12 to 18 nanometer diameter, 1.6 millimeter length in comparison to the thin filaments, which are shorter and thinner as well. If we compare the number of thick and thin filaments inside a skeletal muscle fiber, thick filaments are less and thin filaments are approximately double the number. Thin filaments are also having proteins troponin and tropomyosin in addition to the actin protein. We will have a detailed discussion of structure of these myofilaments a little later in this lecture. We talked about sarcomere composed of alternative dark and light striations which give the skeletal muscle its characteristic appearance, and this appearance is because of interdigitation of the thick and the thin filaments, or you can say actin and the myosin filaments. Now let's have a look at the detailed structure of the sarcomere. This sarcomere is having interdigitation of thick and thin filaments in a uniform manner, because of which we obtain this particular arrangement of the sarcomere. The sarcomere is having multiple areas. So let's have a look microscopically how we describe it. First of all, have a look at the span of the sarcomere. Between two Z lines, we call it one sarcomere, and this is the basic contractile unit of the skeletal muscle. When the skeletal muscle contracts, actually this is the sarcomere which is contracting. And one sarcomere spans from one Z line to the next Z line, and then the next sarcomere, and next sarcomere arranged in a uniform manner across the muscle fibers. Now, what is a Z disc? Z disc is basically this attachment point for the actin filament, as you can see in the zigzag manner over here. And this is providing attachment to the actin filaments, which are the thin filaments over here. On both its sides, it is providing the anchor to the thin filament, and we call it the Z line. The span of the thin filaments, where it is not overlapped by the thick filaments. As you can appreciate, the thin ones, these are the thin filaments and these are the thick filaments, and there is an area of the thin filament where it is not overlapped by the thick filament. We call it I-band. Whereas the complete span of the thick filament from here to here, whether it is overlapped or not overlapped by the actin filament, is called as A-band. Let me repeat, the span of the thin filament not overlapped by the myosin filament is called as I-band. The complete span of the thick filament is called as A-band. And the span of the thick filament not overlapped by the actin filament is called as H-band. So there are three bands, I, H and A-band. I-band is the area of the actin filament not overlapped by the myosin filament. Complete span of the myosin filament is A-band. The span of the myosin filament not overlapped by the actin filament is called as H-band. At the center of the thick filament, or you can also call it the center of the sarcomere, is a line called M line, which provides anchor to the myosin filament. This is the counterpart of the Z line, which provided anchor to the actin filaments. So you can also say that A band and H band are dissected in the center by the M line, while I band is dissected in the center by the Z line. To memorize, I use an acronym is HUM. I band intersected in the center by Z line, H band intersected in the center by the M line. We call it I band and A band because of its response to the light. I band is isotropic to the polarized light, and A band is anisotropic to the polarized light. This is why this appears light and this appears dark when seen under the microscope, giving the characteristic striation to the skeletal muscle. So to understand the structure of the sarcomere, you need to know the span of the sarcomere between two Z lines, the I band, A band, H band, the role of the Z line and the role of the M line. Further, you can appreciate that each thick filament is surrounded by thin filament in a hexagonal pattern. Right now, what you are looking at is a two-dimensional image in which you can appreciate a thick filament surrounded upward and downward by the thin filament. If you look in the 3D image, you will appreciate there are actin or thin filaments upward and downward on the front, upward and downward on the back, and one ahead of it and one before it. So each thick filament is ultimately surrounded by 6 thin filaments. Whereas in 3-dimensional image, each thin filament is going to be surrounded by 3 thick filaments. And here you can appreciate there are 1500 thick filaments and 3000 thin filaments inside a muscle fiber. This is for the purpose of this characteristic arrangement. The ratio of 1:2, each thick filament surrounded by 6 thin filaments and each thin filament surrounded by 3 thick filaments in turn. You can also appreciate this in the cross-sectional image seen over here. The hexagonal arrangement is showing the thin filament around a thick filament, and this triangular arrangement is showing the thick filaments across around one thin filament. And this is the cross-sectional image as you can see over here from a muscle fiber. Now my question is, how do sarcomeres enlarge when a muscle grow in size? As the kids grow up, their skeletal muscles also grow in size. And the sarcomeres, do they also grow in length? But the correct answer is, the sarcomeres do not grow in length. The length of the thick and thin filament, this is constant throughout the age of the person and the age of the skeletal muscle. Rather, the muscles and muscle fibers grow by addition of the more sarcomeres with age. One more sarcomere, more sarcomere, more sarcomere. This is how the muscle fibers grow rather than by increasing the size of the sarcomere. This is constant with age, the length of the sarcomere and the length of the myofilaments as well. The proteins we have discussed inside a sarcomere, the actin and myosin proteins, these are the contractile proteins. In addition, skeletal muscle also contains few regulatory proteins as shown in front of you. Let's have a look at the functions of these proteins one by one. Actinin is a protein that binds actin to the Z lines. This actin to the Z line and the help is provided by the actinin protein as appreciated by these blue arrows over here. Then comes the titin protein. These titin proteins help in providing an anchor to the myosin with the Z disc. This protein, this springy nature protein is called as titin protein, and this is providing the anchorage to the other end of the myosin to the Z disc, whereas the center end of the myosin filament is attached over here to the M line. This is the largest filamentous protein of the body. It's springy in nature and it maintains the horizontal alignment of thick and the thin filaments. It can also change in length with the contraction and relaxation of the skeletal muscle, and you will appreciate its significance when we discuss the isotonic versus isometric muscle contraction as well. So one function of the titin protein is providing the anchorage to the myosin filament, and second most important function is because of its elasticity, which is going to play its role when the muscle contracts. but the length of sarcomere doesn't change. Here, the elasticity of the titin protein will play its role. Then comes another regulatory protein, the Despin protein. This is providing the attachment of the Z lines to the plasma membrane. Actinin provides attachment of actin to the Z line. Titin provides attachment of the myosin to Z line. Now, Despin is providing anchorage of the Z line to the plasma membrane. Next comes the dystrophin glycoprotein complex. We will have a detailed discussion of this complex when we are discussing the muscular dystrophies. Right now, dystrophin protein is basically working in combination with a lot other proteins, which is called as a complex of dystrophin glycoprotein complex. And this provides the anchorage of actin filaments to the muscle membrane. Despin provided anchorage of Z disc to the muscle membrane or plasma membrane. Here, the dystrophin glycoprotein complex is providing anchorage of the actin filament to the plasma membrane with the help of this whole complex. Next, other structures of the skeletal muscle. The sarcoplasm, as you know, there is sarcolemma, the muscle cell membrane. So the sarcoplasm is basically the cytoplasm of the skeletal muscle present inside the muscle cell, which is the muscle fiber, present in between the myofibrils, and it contains abundant mitochondria, which are essential to provide the ATP for skeletal muscle contraction. Then come the two most important aspects of skeletal muscle structure, the transverse tubules and the sarcoplasmic reticulum. First of all, the transverse tubule. This is the invagination of the sarcolemma. As you can appreciate over here, the pink dip downs from the sarcolemma. These are the transverse tubules which are dipping down into the sarcoplasm of the skeletal muscle. This is open outside to the extracellular fluid, and this is present at the level of AI junction. Sorry, this is wrong, not at the level of D disc. This is present at the junction of A band and I band in case of the skeletal muscles. And this will be present at the level of Z disc in case of the cardiac muscle. So here it is present at the junction of A band and I band, as you can appreciate over here. The transverse tubule is present at each junction of A band and I band across the muscle fiber. And they penetrate transversely. If the muscle fibers are running in this direction across the skeletal muscles, transverse tubules will be running in perpendicular to these muscle fibers. What is the purpose of these transverse tubules? They increase the surface area of the cell membrane, plus they help in carrying the action potential deep into the fiber. If this was not like this, the only superficial muscle fibers in contact with the muscle cell membrane, neuromuscular junction would have gained directly the action potential. Because of this transverse tubules, the muscle action potential is carried rapidly to the interior of the muscle cell fibers. Also, this is involved in excitation contraction coupling, a concept that we will be discussing in our coming up lectures of neuromuscular junction transmission. The other part of this complex is the sarcoplasmic reticulum that you can appreciate over here in the green. As this is skeletal muscle, the endoplasmic reticulum over here is specialized into the sarcoplasmic reticulum. This is an extensive network branch structure throughout the muscle cell fibers. And the purpose of sarcoplasmic reticulum over here is especially to store the calcium, which is required essentially for the skeletal muscles contraction. As you can see over here, this is a discontinuous structure between different segments of the muscle fibers. Throughout one sarcomere, this is one structure, then there is a transverse tubule, then the next segment of the sarcoplasm across the next sarcomere. And other thing you can appreciate over here, that the central portion of the sarcoplasmic reticulum is a branched portion, whereas the terminal ends of the sarcoplasmic reticulum are enlarged into sacs, or you can call these cisterns, lateral sacs or terminal cisterns. And these are embedded across the transverse tubules and wrapping it throughout. So they are in direct communication with the transverse tubules, again required for the excitation contraction coupling. So sarcoplasmic reticulum, this is the branched portion, and its ends are organized into enlarged cisterns or cells. These also run longitudinally throughout the myofibrils. And this particular arrangement of one transverse tubules plus two lateral sacs of the sarcoplasmic reticulum is called a triad. And this is a characteristic of skeletal muscles, which is replaced by the dyades in case of the cardiac muscles. So here we call it triad because of this characteristic arrangement of transverse tubules and the sarcoplasmic reticulum. That was the structure of the sarcomere and the organelles and other structures which are of physiological importance for the skeletal muscle contraction. Now we are going to have a detailed look at the molecular level about the structure of the myofilaments found inside a sarcomere, that is a thick filament and the thin filament. We will discuss these one by one. The thick filament, as we discussed previously, is larger and thicker as compared with thin filament. Number of thick filaments is less as compared to thin filaments. Thick filament has only myosin protein, whereas thin filament has actin, troponin, and the tropomyosin proteins. The structure of thick filament and thin filament is in front of you. And in the next section of this lecture, we are going to discuss the molecular structure of these filaments one by one. We will begin our discussion with the molecular structure of the myosin filament. At the bottom image, you can see a myosin or a thick filament, which is having a portion in between, having no heads or cross bridges. On the ends, the cross bridges you can appreciate, which attach in a sarcomere to the actin filament and provide the skeletal muscle contraction. Each myosin filament is composed of multiple myosin molecules. In the image above, you can see the structure of one myosin molecule. Each myosin molecule is further composed of heavy chains and light chains. Heavy and light chains. There are 2 heavy chains and 4 light chains. The 2 heavy chains are intertwined around each other, as you can appreciate over here. And the ends of the heavy chains are thrown into folds called heads. So there are 2 heavy chains, 2 heads, and both chains are intertwined around each other, forming tail portion, arm portion, and head portion. So this is tail, this is arm, and this is head portion. What you see throughout this part of the myosin filament is the tail portion of the myosin molecule. And also this longitudinal portion, these are the tail portion of the myosin molecule. What you are seeing over here, the cross bridges are the arms and heads of the myosin molecule. So arm plus head of the myosin molecule make one cross bridge. Arms have the thick heavy chains, and heads also have the heavy chains. So where are the light chains? Light chains are only present inside the head portion of the myosin filaments. 2 light chains with each head. These are the regulatory portion of the myosin filament. So 2 light chains here and 2 light chains over here, plus the ends of the 2 heavy chains, that makes up the head portion of the myosin filament. There are 2 other important sites on the myosin head, as you can appreciate over here. It has actin binding site. So for the myosin and actin interaction in the cross-bridge cycling, plus a myosin ATPase site for the enzymatic activity, which cleaves ATP into ADP and phosphate and releases energy for the skeletal muscle contraction. Structure of the thick filament or myosin filament, it is a contractile protein, 2 heavy chains, 4 light chains only in the head, heavy chains from the double helix tail. Each molecule has 2 globular heads. Light chains have a regulatory function during the contraction. Each myosin filament has more than 200 myosin molecules. Tails form the central body, head and arms form the cross bridges. Cross bridges have 2 hinges provided for the flexibility, one at the junction of tail and the arm, other at the junction of arm and the head. And you will get to know about its significance when we are discussing the cross-bridge cycling or the walk-along theory. There are no heads in the central region of the myosin filament, about 0.2 micrometer region. Filament length in total is about 1.6 micrometers. Functional arrangement of the myosin head has ATPase enzymes that leaves ATP cross bridges twist around the myosin filament in three-dimensional, approximately 120 degrees apart. Each myosin head is 120 degrees apart from the other myosin head throughout the three dimension. As the actin filaments are arranged in hexagonal order across the three dimensions of the myosin filament. This ensures active interaction of the myosin heads to the actin filaments in all the directions. That was all about the structure of the thick filament. Now let's move on to the structure of thin filament, composed primarily of the actin protein. As you can see over here, the actin molecules, we also call this G-actin, that is globular actin molecule. These globular actin proteins are having these green myosin binding sites. The myosin heads have actin binding sites and actin filaments, actin molecules have myosin cross-bridge binding site. These globular G proteins arrange around each other to form F-actin, that is the filamentous actin protein, and two filaments are intertwined around each other. So G-actin arranged into actin helix, F-actin, and these myosin binding sites on the actin proteins, as shown in green over here, are further covered by the tropomyosin protein, which is the regulatory protein of the thin filament. It keeps the heads of active sites of the actin covered unless and until there is an appropriate stimulus. So the role of tropomyosin is to cover the actin sites of active sites on the actin proteins. And the third protein which is involved over here is the troponin protein, which is composed of three subunits. So actin filament has actin protein, tropomyosin protein, and troponin protein. Let's have a look. Double-stranded F-actin helix. Each strand is a polymer of G-actin protein. Each G-actin has one active site for myosin binding. Each active site is staggered at 2.7 nanometer diameter, and actin filaments are anchored to the Z disc with the help of the actinin protein. Tropomyosin is a regulatory protein that wraps around F-actin helix and covers the actin active sites during the resting states and blocks the action or interaction of actin and myosin filaments until there is a stimulus. Troponin has three subunits. It is attached along the tropomyosin at intervals. Again, at regulatory protein, three subunits are I, T, and C. I is for inhibition. It inhibits the interaction of actin with myosin. Troponin T is binding with tropomyosin. So it is providing the attachment of troponin to the actin complex. And troponin C has the function of binding with the calcium. Whenever the calcium binds to troponin C, it helps move the tropomyosin out of the way and exposes the active sites of the actin filament, triggering the skeletal muscle contraction. That's all about the structure of the myofilaments, sarcomere, macroscopic organization of the skeletal muscle. If you have any question, please feel free to ask. Thank you very much.